We're not defined by adversity. We're forged by it. And that's the power of peer support. Hello, it's a true pleasure to be here with you today. And I can't thank SAMHSA enough for giving us this opportunity during Children's Mental Health Week. Today, I'm going to be introducing you to a program called Uplift, which is a 4-day peer support training for high school students, teaching them to spot despair in their friends and then what to do about it. In the link below, you'll see the incredible results from an Oxford study. This is the first study, and currently a second study is in the peer review process. Uplift tackles the idea of training youth differently. We take concepts like vicarious trauma and transform them from the ground up. Instead of teaching in clinical terms, we explore the same concepts in a naturalized way. So instead of vicarious trauma, we teach about the secret keeper effect, asking students to explore the impacts of trauma that they might encounter when their friends divulge difficult situations. But this presentation isn't a commercial about Uplift because we have something more important to sell you. We want other programs to start and consider the virtual space as a viable modality in mental health. We want to give you a look behind the scenes so you can understand that what we can do, you can do. I'm so proud and excited that SAMHSA is taking a focus on hope because after COVID, everyone in our field has a tremendous amount of work to do. Youth are suffering. Our systems are struggling to keep up. But there is hope. Some of the lessons we learned demonstrate the potential to reach youth in a new way. A way that just wasn't possible before the pandemic. Whenever I have the opportunity to present, I hope to deliver massive value, and today's no different. I hope that we can inspire you to borrow or steal some of the mechanics behind Uplift. I guess it's not stealing if we're encouraging you to do it, but our program is designed to be scalable because it's virtual, but just being scalable doesn't cut it. There are programs out there that thrive in certain communities but fail in the replication process. At Youth Era, we aren't performative. When we say we believe in youth voice, it isn't marketing lingo, it's our lifeline. And through a process of youth co-design that we went through in partnership with the University of Oxford, we were able to climb a few steps higher than rung 8 on Hart's ladder. We're able to deliver programs like Uplift to virtually any community. Keep in mind that the study that was taken on Uplift participants were from 4 different countries. Today, we're fortunate to hear, and from my opinion, one of the world's leading youth researchers in the area of youth leadership and mental health. We'll also hear from a former CEO of one of the country's most forward-thinking youth residential programs who led the charge in reducing seclusion and restraint. We'll hear from a teacher who weathered the pandemic on the front lines and her perspective on Uplift. And most importantly, we'll hear firsthand accounts from youth who took part in Uplift. I'll see you back here in a few moments.
I remember somebody saying that the DHS reports went down during the pandemic. Isn't that great? And it's like, no, the DHS reports went down because nobody was reporting it. Nobody was catching it.
There are things in our system that are definitely not working, and increasing numbers of youth are falling through the cracks as a result.
A lot of talk right now on mental health as people go through this coronavirus pandemic.
There's this sense of hopelessness.
That over 30% of young people in a recent study consider their mental health poor or very poor. So that's a third of young people who are suffering, right?
I think people know that there's a big mental health problem in our country. I don't think they understand what that means.
You turn on the news and you'd see examples of students looking like they were having fun, almost on an extended vacation, but that's not what was happening. Not all of them, but some of them are still in lockdown. They physically came back, but they say they're still locked in their bedrooms. And they're afraid of crowds, and they're afraid of school, and they're afraid they're never going to get their childhood back.
Disturbing statistics showing a rising suicide rate.
Today, nearly half of high school students are telling us that they feel persistently sad.
I knew I needed something different, I just felt like everything else that I'd tried already was exhausting my methods.
We need different models and different paradigms to think about in terms of really helping the children and also the adults in our society flourish and thrive.
And what we see also is that young people don't necessarily trust the services that are being provided to them.
Uplift did what years of therapy couldn't do.
The accessibility aspect of this virtual platform is what makes it so transformational.
The technology of Uplift is like nothing I've ever seen anywhere. The medium of instruction was so technologically advanced. That was exciting because the youth were sick to death of anything that looked like Zoom school.
I did these activities and it changed the way that I frame my thoughts. My negative thoughts are no longer me, it is my inner critic.
My inner critic, it talks to me a lot.
This program only took 4 days to change the rest of my life. I don't know why there's not more programs like it.
Finally, I found something that actually worked.
At Youth Era, we believe in building resilience and empowering young people. And Uplift embodies that at its core. Disturbing data from the CDC shows that teen girls are grappling with unprecedented levels of violence, despair, and suicide risk. Alarmingly, youth are also moving away from traditional help like therapy and other clinical supports. That's where we see peer support playing a pivotal role. Uplift's core principle is straightforward. Equip high school students with self-improvement tools and peer support skills. We're fostering a generation, proactive response to equip youth with the tools and courage to help their friends in time of need. Uplift's unique beauty lies in the peer-to-peer support mechanism. This isn't about experts on a stage. This is about connection. Uplift isn't rigid. It's adaptable to different communities, cultures, and learning styles. We've opened doors to young minds from all corners of the globe, including Kenya, the UK, and here in the US. Our program is designed to be interactive and engaging, especially important since it's virtual. We aim for youth to not just sign up, but to stay and find lasting value. We've incorporated activities like dancing, music, discussions to encourage genuine connections. We made complex clinical terms relatable. I talked earlier about vicarious trauma and the secret keeper effect. We also have something that we call the construct. In Uplift, the construct is a mechanism in where we take complex subjects, break them down to a 10-minute interval, teach youth in this massive dome the skills that they need, and then break them down into small groups where they'll get to immediately practice those activities. This keeps the pace quick and sets off expectations of Zoom school. The construct isn't just about learning, it's about understanding and applying. It's about experiencing in a supportive environment. To fully appreciate the power of the program, I want to invite you to observe for yourself an activity that we brought together with a group who participated in Uplift. I'm going to now turn you over to one of our lead trainers who's going to lead you through an activity that hopefully you can find some value yourself. I'll see you back here in just a few moments.
My name is Chrissy, and today I'll be showing you a mental hack that has helped me recognize my self-talk. I can remember a time in my life where not being able to recognize that my intrusive thoughts were just that, intrusive, was a life and death situation. As a person living with suicidal ideation, this tool has protected me and reminds me I am not my negative thoughts. And peer support has helped me to be able to recognize when someone is living in and believing their negative self-talk and need a reframe of those thoughts into something positive and encouraging and supportive. Our negative self-talk can play a big role in our decision making and our own belief in what we're capable of accomplishing. Imposter syndrome is a great example of when we allow an inner critic to dictate what we're capable of. I like to share a story of an artist that I like. Her name is m.o.v.e. She shared in the Arts Worcester blog that as an artist, she would listen to her inner critic that would say that she isn't a real artist. There were times in her life that she would struggle to price her art because she felt it wasn't worth anything. Fast forward to today, when she began to listen to an inner voice that didn't want to criticize, but wanted to defend and empower. She's an acclaimed young adult artist. She's 23, and she sells her art and is able to make a living through her creations. We all have that inner critic and an inner defender. When I was in high school, my parents moved me to Japan. This was for military work that they had to do, and I had to leave all my friends behind in the States. And once I got there, I had no friends, and I became a bit of an outcast. I went to school on a military base, and there I had met an older person. And remember, I had just moved there, didn't know anyone, and this person took advantage of that, and I was unfortunately assaulted. I kept that secret with me because I was ashamed. What if people blamed me for it? What if it was my fault? Over time, I let this inner critic voice tell me that I was ugly or that I deserved what happened, that no one would ever love me, and of course, that this should never be told out loud. Now, through my healing journey and over time, I listened to my inner defender, who had to be found by me and fashioned by me to uplift me and remind me that I am not my trauma. This is how I'm able to be here today. The imposter syndrome ends here and now. The way to practice this and the way to rewire your brain and recognizing your self-talk is called inner critic, and our follow-up activity is called inner defender. The inner critic exercise is a tool used to personify negative habits, negative self-talk, and negative perspectives in order to take on a new set of more useful habits. When we use our imagination and picture or personify what our inner critic would look like, how it acts, and what its goal is, we can create distance and ultimately laugh at or even silence it. It's helpful to be creative and silly when you're thinking about your inner critic. I invite you to really give it like cartoonish characteristics. As an example, here's mine. I've made it tiny, kind of ugly, but still cute. And it looks like it would only be out to make me feel less than or maybe even sad. My inner critic tends to show up when I need to try something new, challenge myself, or when I'm feeling like I'm not meeting expectations. When does your inner critic show up? What do you think its mission is? In the same light, we can personify and create our inner defender. This is the inner self-talk that encourages you, empowers you, and stands up to the inner critic in protection. Picture someone or thing that loves you. What would they look like? Would they carry like a shield or wear armor? For an example, you can see my painting that I created. It's an acrylic painting, and it's got swirls in the head. And my inner defender is like a champion that reminds me of my worth. My inner defender reminds me that even through mental health challenges, I'm capable, I'm strong, and able to be the best version of myself. What characteristics does your inner defender have? If your inner defender was to speak up for you, what would it say? There have definitely been times when I've been providing like peer support where I can hear the person I'm talking to speak so negatively on themselves. And it's as if I can see their inner critic talking at them. I listen with empathy and ask them if they're willing to try this exercise out. And so many times it's made them laugh or feel a bit lighter in the moment because those negative views and that talk gets personified, and it becomes easier to recognize and create a distance between that inner dialogue and draw in the inner defender to protect. We have a group of young people who did this activity off-site. So let's go ahead and hear their introductions and hear about their inner critics and their inner defenders.
My name is Sebastian. I use he, they pronouns.
My name is Maddie. I use she, her pronouns.
My name's Abdul. I use he, him pronouns.
My name is Trevor. I use he, him pronouns.
My name is Meme, and my pronouns are they, them.
My name's Tyler, and I use she, her.
My name is Erilyn, and I use any pronouns.
So this is Buzz, my inner critic. Buzz is a big fat fly, the kind that just never goes away, and you keep trying to swat it, and it loves to be around your head all the time, but you're stuck with them. And Buzz is very noisy, and that's why he's really difficult, because it talks to me a lot, and it feels like I'm constantly trying to drown out the things that it's telling me. And yeah, it tells me things like, you're not special, you're too loud, you're taking up too much space. Yeah, lately it's been a lot of, you're not good at sharing. I don't know why that's coming up recently. Definitely like a new thing he likes to buzz around and tell me. But yeah, that's Buzz. This is my defender. It's a mother coyote. And coyotes are very special to my family, and that's just something I can draw upon, to come up and tell me that I am unique. No one can bring what I bring to a table. I'm important. I'm worthy. And I am deserving of the good things that happen to me, because I am capable and strong and perseverant.
My inner critic is myself, but with if you look really close, you can see that there's a hole where the heart is, and also there are no eyes, because I don't know, eyes are kind of the window to the soul. My inner critic is a critic that criticizes all of the emotions that I feel, and says, oh, well, that isn't a very intelligent thing to feel, because that's frivolous, or why do you feel that way? Nobody else does. And that it tells me to be quiet so that I don't humiliate myself. So my inner critic, I actually think, is looking out for me, but in a very overbearing and without much depth kind of way, because it doesn't have a heart. It doesn't have the heart that I have. So this is my defender. It's a manatee. It's a very simplistic manatee, and you can see this manatee has eyes. And I chose a manatee because I feel like manatees, they're really, they have really thick skin. They kind of just seem like they feel their emotions, but they exist in a very peaceful way. They don't try to impose onto anything else. They just feel like, it just feels like a good defender against my inner critic, because my inner critic is so, it just thinks about all of the external effects in the world and all of the complicated things that the manatee would just bounce off of the manatee. And you can see like the lines that are bouncing the criticisms off. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So my inner critic is called Mess. because all of the things that go on in my head when it's talking to me just feels like one big mess, and I kind of made it all a tornado, with like question marks and exclamation points and like words that just kind of describes the chaos that goes on in my head when it's around. And so it's like this big tornado, this big swirling, repeating, kind of something that you get stuck in. It's just this tornado that goes down all the way to like this angry, like criticizing version of myself, I guess. And mess tells me a lot of things, like you're doing this wrong. If you can't do this right, like everyone's gonna be mad at you. It criticizes like every little thing I do. So if I'm like late to something, it's like everyone's gonna be mad at you because you're late. Or like if you can't turn this in on time, like you're just gonna plummet. Like everything's gonna just crash and burn if you can't do this right. And yeah, so it's just kind of like this cycle of bad things that it tells me. So this is my defender. Don't mind the legs. It's a deer with some like plants and stuff around it, because whenever I see deer, it's always like, it's like my family's driving and then my parents just shout deer, and because they see a deer in the window, and I look over and they're just like, they're always just so like free and like just like doing their thing, frolicking in the wilderness, and you see them for just a split second, but like just for that split second it always feels like peaceful and nice. So like I see them as very nice, and very like, I don't know, I just feel like a deer would be a good protector, and it feels very like I just feel connected to it somehow. But yeah.
Yeah, so this is my inner critic. His name is Warlord. From a very young age, I had raised myself, and I constantly feel like I need a battle to be happy, and the Warlord is constantly feeding me and leading me towards my own demise, and telling me that I'm not good enough, and that there's strength in battle and in fighting and throwing yourself into the fire. And the Warlord inside of me is constantly egging me to put myself in uncomfortable situations and saying like, throw yourself into the line of fire, and yeah, that's who Warlord is. But this is my defender. It's an angel. It's supposed to look like my adopted mother. She means everything to me. She tells me all the time that I don't need a battle, and to give myself grace and in time and the patience. And yeah, she just tells me to give myself patience, kindness and compassion, to give myself the clarity I need to move forward. So yeah, that's my defender.
Okay, so my inner critic is, I named him Rovert, which is the opposite of my name. And the reason for that is because he's a twisted version of myself, like a voice that lives in my head that I can't get rid of, who's constantly like making me overthink and doubt myself and reminding me of situations and stuff I don't want to think about. And he's just like, basically just makes my life a living hell with this inner voice that I can't get rid of. And yeah, it's just this dark, ominous figure that looks like me. And then my defender is, I call him Perm, PRM. Call her PRM, and it represents, it's a bumblebee, and it represents an important person in my life. And because that a bumblebee is their favorite animal, and it's sweet, and it brings life to me, like of how a bee brings life to the environment around it, and it just makes me happy thinking about them because they have my heart, and they make me happy. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
This is my inner critic. Their name is like, because that like tenfold is just what I hear in my ears. It's like, it's not even coming from anywhere. It's just like there. The biggest things that this thing says to me is like, no, you can't do that. And that's not enough. Whether it's something about intelligence or like a feeling or anything really. It's just that it's not enough, and it's not going to be enough, and it never will be enough. Sometimes it catches me like in a trance almost, because it's just telling me these things and I can't go anywhere else, so I'm sucked into like a black hole of some type. And I feel like I'm like hypnotized in a trance state. Like I'm just going through the motions of life. I'm not even realizing like what I'm doing. And that sometimes just leads me to see like nothing. So it's just like I fall into nothing. I am nothing. There's nothing to see. There's nothing to be. So yeah, just a bunch of vortexes that I get trapped in. So okay, well, here's the start of my defender. She doesn't have a name. She's above any social or physical construct. She's not made of like a solid liquid or gas. Like it's like something completely different, so she could flow and get through anything. And she's like, I don't even know, but she's like the clouds and like the cosmos and like the galaxy. And you can't really like ever see her, but you can smell her. She smells like flowers. She smells like comfort and like calmness, however that smells. You could probably hear her saying nice words. Like sometimes I feel like she'll tap into one of my best friends or my aunt, and she'll be like, you can do that. Or she'll say, you got this. Or she'll compliment things about my soul. And she has cool eyeliner like me.
This is my inner critic. I decided to name it Reflection because it feels like looking in a mirror at something that isn't and also is me at the same time. Something that is in support of me, but also wants to see my demise. It doesn't define me, but it is something that influences me. Anytime I mess up or come short or don't meet my own or somebody else's standards, it always tells me all the bad things that have happened to me is that I deserved it. My defender is something that I have very close to me, which is a cat. It's supposed to be reflecting my cat, and cats have always been present in the people I love, who have always been there with me. And I always think of their warmth and how they're always so independent, but simply choose to be with people. And I feel like I want to become more like them. And I get to choose that who I am is really who I am in my mind, and not just what I know. That I know in my heart, mind, body, and spirit, that my inner critic is not part of me.
Out of all of the breakthroughs that you just shared, what would you say is your biggest takeaway from this activity?
Well, honestly, before this, I didn't really have a protector. I didn't really think about it, I guess. But now that I kind of have like an image of something that I can look at instead of my inner critic, I think that might help me a lot in the future to feel more grounded and feel like there's something else in my head that is rooting for me instead of going against me.
I think something practical that I took away was just like being able to identify what that voice inside my head is and giving it a name, so it makes it easier to defend myself from it. And now I have a defender, which I never knew was really there, and which I mean I did know, but like kind of just hit me now that I do have a defender that can help me against that voice. And just being able to identify the two things and give them names and identities is just a little bit easier.
I thought I knew what like taking time for myself was, but I feel like this was really like self-time, because usually I'm always thinking about something else while I'm doing those things, and I'm always going so fast in life, and I've never like stopped to really like turn my eyes like inwards and say, oh, what do I see like in my brain? If I could give it something to say, or if I could put it into an image form, like it's a whole different type of like self-care that I feel like I learned. And so it gave me that space to slow down like a lot and be like, oh, okay.
I think the practicality that it showed me is that though that inner critic exists, all the adversity that I've endured has made me the individual that I am today. And though that may be a perpetual voice, it's raised awareness that there is always something for me to fall back on. And that's my protector, you know, my defender, you know, that won't go away, you know, but slowly and surely, the more I become aware of that voice, the warlord, you know, that voice will quiet little by little as long as I realize that I have that defender there for me.
Wow. First of all, a huge thank you to all of the young people who shared. It's so awesome to see and hear from each of you. I loved how each of you were vulnerable in sharing this part of you. I could hear you recognize that the negative self-talk wasn't serving you, and the shift in tone when you spoke about your defenders. Thank you so much for practicing this mental hack, and thank you all for joining us today on our live stream. Until next time, take care of you.
I hope you took the time and found your inner critic and your inner defender. And I want to thank the youth who are so vulnerable and coming back and sharing their experiences. This program saw outcomes improve for young people across the board. Through these tools, young people's mental health symptoms decreased by 31%, participants' compassion increased, as well as their independence skills and attitudes towards civil engagement. We've linked that paper, which includes all of those details, in the description below. But this is not a victory lap. This is not self-congratulations. It's a call to action. I believe we cracked some kind of code, and we're desperate to share it with all of you. I'm urging anyone who builds programs or funds programs that work with youth to take what we've done and replicate it. We can do something about youth mental health. We can build programs that believe in their personal power and refuse to let stigma hold them back, helping them to find the art of peer support. I'm inviting every one of you to join us in that journey. This program is very close to my heart, and I appreciate you taking the time to join us. I hope you could learn more about Youth Era, and if there's anything we can do to help you along in your journey, we're here. This is important work, and together, we can change things. Thank you.